Hey, you're watching Half Asian Tarot Queen. I'm Elisa. I'm starting with the Radiant Wise Spirit Tarot, but oh my gosh. So at the bottom of the deck, when I pull it out, there's Justice. It's crazy because when I did that last reading, who knew all the stuff that was going to unfold in the world? And it ended up being like kind of right on, like, I'm just kind of shocked, like everyone, about what's going on in our world right now. But oh my gosh. For sure, we're going through a big shift. And that's been like, you know, that's been coming in the cards like for a while. I mean, I think it's inevitable because during 2020 we all went through this period of just like self-reflection and self-work, and like I think things are coming to a head, you know. And like I was saying, there's like a battle between business as usual and the way things have always been, and like a new way forward, and that's like coming to a climax. And it's really powerful, the changes that are coming through right now. So okay, all right, I'm just gonna start with this to get some overall energies. But it's interesting because we got the Three of Cups, which this is a card of reconciliation, of reunion, of like finding your tribe, and coming together. And it's really interesting because I was just speaking about this on Facebook, you know, because it's just like the events that unfolded yesterday, like nobody could have ever anticipated. And I think for like months leading up to this, there's been this sort of like pink elephant that like nobody wants to confront, nobody wants to address, you know. There's like these dueling realities, and there's only going to be one way forward. And so it's been this like pink elephant that nobody's wanted to confront. But now it's like the mask has been removed, you know. I mean, the blanket was pulled off the pink elephant. It's just there, you know. The emperor's clothes have been removed. Like, it's, we cannot brush it under the rug any longer. And well, it's just interesting how like people are coming together, you know. Like, you know, in the US, it's like Republicans versus Democrats have been so at odds and so polarized for forever, you know. And there's this coming together that I see starting to happen, which is really beautiful. So that's cool. I mean, that's at the bottom of the deck. But then the cards we have Strength, we have the Queen of Cups, we have Temperance, we have Justice, and we have the Ten of Wands. So it's really, I mean, this really speaks to what's going on. I mean, it's going to take strength to move through this situation because obviously there's a lot of chaos and turmoil that's happening, you know. But the Queen of Hearts is someone who operates from their heart, you know, from a heart-centered space. And it's interesting that this card is coming up because I've been talking about this shift happening in the collective consciousness from operating from this place of business as usual and whatever it takes to get the job done so that you can win, you know. That's been a perfectly legitimate way to walk through the world, you know, for a long time. And I think that's shifting, you know, and like people are starting to listen to their heart, you know. And it's just like to their morals, to their values, and be guided from that energy, which I think is a really positive change, you know. It's like no longer is it a respectable thing, you know, to like have to like sublimate what's right in order to win, you know. Like there's been a complete shift, I think, in that sort of philosophy. And so we're coming to this place of balance, you know, alchemy, and a place of justice. And we're putting that burden down. So this is like really speaking to a profound evolution, I think, that's starting to emerge. And like, who knew? I mean, this is really kind of shocking. Yeah, I'm going to keep going with the other decks. Okay, so I'm going to the Mystical Shaman Oracle, which is, it's kind of like my favorite deck. But at the bottom of the deck, we have the Vision Quest. So this is a card that's, it's got a similar message to the Hermit, which interestingly enough is also appearing in this reading. But I'll get to that in a second. But this is a card about, you know, facing down your fears, facing down your immortality, and being sort of like on a spiritual quest. And it's in a transition to a new stage of life, you know, where you're really taking a moment and getting clarity about your own evolution. So a big turning point. And I think a lot of people are doing that now. I mean, I think everything that's happened in the last week has triggered a lot of soul searching, and it's really interesting to see how people are responding to it, because, you know, like I was saying, it's like bringing together people who, you know, wouldn't have historically have been on the same team, you know, because I think people are starting to realign their values, you know, like Republicans and Democrats coming together in this bipartisan way, in the way that people did after 9/11 almost, you know. I mean, definitely there's people still like in opposing camps for sure, but like we're starting to see this progress that I don't think people have been inspired to do in quite some time. So that's interesting. Then we have the Earth Keeper, the Ancient Ones, the Spiral, the Witness, and the Serpent. So all of these are speaking to this process of awakening. That's kind of, you know, what I was just speaking to, you know. I mean, the Earth Keeper, this speaks to being part of something that's larger than yourself, you know, being a steward of the earth and having a purpose that's bigger than your own personal ego, your own personal gratification, which is interesting because I think this is a thing that a lot of people are starting to contemplate. I mean, we had this whole episode that happened this week where other people's lives were endangered, and it was in service to one person's ego, really. I mean, that's what it boils down to. And I mean, I think there's like a bipartisan sort of agreement, you know, about that. But like, this speaks to having a purpose that's larger than that. Like, you know, is someone who has a cause, you know. It's not just about making money or business as usual, or, you know, it's deeper than that. Like, there's substance to it. And I think that's important to have, like, fulfillment and happiness in life, you know. But then we have the Ancient Ones, which speaks to having guidance from our ancestors and from the other side, and like signs and synchronicities that are kind of guiding us through this transition. This also, I didn't mention this, but it speaks to when you are in alignment with a purpose that's larger than yourself, you tap into this power that you don't have as an individual. So it's just like when you do the right thing for the right reasons and service to something bigger than yourself, like you're tapping into resources and support that you wouldn't have, you know. So it's just it's kind of auspicious, like speaking to sort of tapping into a certain level of abundance, you know. And then we have the spiral, which this speaks to like an ascension and an evolution. I mean, it speaks to like we have these recurring cycles that will happen in our life, you know. And for example, like you might have like a repeating pattern that keeps happening in your life, and you don't really understand why necessarily, but like it'll be a similar situation, and the people or the circumstances might change, but it's the same situation that happens over and over again until you have this moment of awakening where you get clarity on why that is, and then you evolve, you know, to the next stage or the next level of life because you finally understood like how you've attracted that to yourself, you know. And then we have the witness, which this card, you know, it speaks to the sort of the power of like the high priestess, which again is interesting because that card also appears in this reading. But it's a card of unfolding and the power of non-action, you know, and the power of being in alignment, the power of being in alignment with something bigger than yourself and being in alignment with the truth, you know. And when you have this alignment, when you're in alignment with the higher good, you no longer have this need to like strive and claw for a specific outcome. I mean, it's kind of the other side of this whole thing, you know. When you are tapped into a purpose that's larger than yourself, it's no longer about your ego and your personal gratification, because ultimately when you're clawing and striving for this, like, that's all kind of an illusion, you know. But the real power comes from being in alignment with this greater good, with this higher power, with spirit. And when you have that alignment, like, you no longer have to claw and fight, you know, for like an outcome, but you can just know that you've done that work within yourself, that you can remove the obstacles to whatever your intention is, and that you can just watch the miracle as it unfolds, you know. And that's the power of the witness, you know. And then we have the serpent, which this is a card quite literally of awakening, you know. It's like you have removed all the obstacles within your energy, your chakras are open, like you've cleared any distortions that you might have, and you've just like become this clear channel for the divine to work through you. And then you have this moment of ascension and of awakening. So it's really interesting, you know, because we're speaking to this enlightenment that's happening like across the board, you know, the spiritual quest. And then I'm going to the Urban Tarot, and the card on the bottom, we have science, but it's the Six of Swords, which is the card of moving on from a bad situation to a better situation. Like, we finally have this clarity and understanding so that we can like move forward. So then the cards I got, the Queen of Cups, the Therapist, the Three of Swords, Sorrow, the Princess of Swords, the Activist, the Hermit, and we got the Eight of Wands, or Swiftness, but it fell out upside down, which is kind of significant because I don't really, I mean, I'm kind of anal about not making my cards upside down, but this just tumbled out and it came out upside down. So, I mean, this speaks to, like I was saying, kind of doing this internal work and removing our own obstacles, whatever distortions, you know, we may be carrying around from like wounds or heartbreak from the past, you know, and coming into alignment with something bigger than ourselves. I mean, this is the Activist. This is someone who has a purpose, you know. It's like similar to this message. And like going on this spiritual quest and doing this kind of soul searching, you know. And then this is interesting because this is a card of like, normally of like a message coming in or of like movement, but this is like a card of like stillness, you know, of like not movement, of like things kind of standing still, which is interesting because like this, it kind of goes along with this message of the witness, where it's like the power of non-action, where you don't actually have to do anything, like it's just going to unfold, you know. And this is leading to like satiety. This is like emotional fulfillment and happiness and creation, you know. This is a manifester. This is someone who can create something out of nothing, you know, through this power of non-action. And the truth just like being revealed, you know, like this unfolding that's happening. But then it's interesting because we have this seducer here, and we've been having a lot of readings about this character that have come up lately, and it was like this person who was like sort of like they're not in alignment with reality. Like they are the opposite of everything, you know, that we've been talking about. So it's almost like there's kind of like two tales, because there's like this person who has done this inner work, who has gone on this spiritual quest, who has come into alignment with something bigger than themselves, and they're just sort of like in alignment with the truth and like watching things unfold. And this is the person who's like having this awakening and like ascending to this higher power, you know. Like this fell right out under the truth, you know, the Ace of Swords. But then we have the seducer, which interestingly, the seducer falls out right under this Eight of Wands, which is upside down, you know. So it's almost like this person kind of has a stuck energy, because it's like they aren't in alignment with reality. They aren't able to like see things as they really are. And so it's like things aren't moving forward. They're stuck for this person, and like this awakening isn't allowed to happen, you know, because it's like their energy is stuck, you know. So it's almost like there's like two outcomes that are happening. Like there's both things, you know. It's like the reading that I just did was called A Line in the Sand, and it was like talking about, depending on how you lined up with the truth, you know, it was like there's this line being drawn in the sand, and we've already committed to what side we're on, but the line gets drawn, and then like our destinies get revealed depending on which side you're on, you know. If you're aligned with the truth, then like there's this awakening and this ascension and this beautiful moment that happens. But if you are not aligned with the truth, if you're aligned with something that's not the truth, with a delusion, with a lie, with a fantasy, well then you're gonna kind of miss out on this moment. Like, there's a little bit of stuck, you know. You're not actually going to be able to drop the burden, because justice is going to be served to the other side of the line, you know. So it's like, wow, you know, there's been like all of this. I mean, there's just a lot of message about like this big reckoning that's happening right now. And yeah, it's kind of speaking to two different destinies. So interesting, really interesting reading. I'm going to go to the Oracle of Seven Energies, and I'm going to pick a final card. It's really interesting stuff, because, you know, like it's very clear that there's a big climax that's happening right now, and that there's a big shift that's happening. I mean, you can see that in the tumult and drama that's happening, like, you know, politically. That there's like, for sure, like a clash of ideas and realities. Okay, so there's kind of two that fell out. We got a higher view, and we got willing release. So it's like, it's kind of a moment to take a step back, and get a larger perspective. Like, it's this vision quest. It's this moment to kind of, so it's a moment for soul searching, and like, you know, what really means something to us, like what's important, you know, on a deep level, like not business as usual, but deeper than that, you know. And if it's not, like, it's time to let it go, you know. So it's really okay. I'm gonna just read the willing release card. I'm not gonna read both of them because I don't want this reading to be so long, but oh my gosh, this is like a really, I think, important moment in time, historical. This is perfect. Willing release, yielding to a divine plan, releasing attachment to form, especially if something isn't what you expected or wanted, leaving room for serendipity. Some days you have to let go of your struggle to find an answer and focus on other things for a while. This doesn't mean giving up altogether or losing anything. Remember that we are co-creative partnership with the divine, and give and take is necessary. You do your part by settling your intentions and taking any necessary actions, but you then must surrender the form, the timing, and the how to your higher power. There is a divine plan for each of us. When acting on this faith, you may find that your intense desire for something translates into a feeling of attachment and entitlement. Right now, you can immerse yourself in this experience and allow the divine plan to unfold as it will on your behalf without interference. Can you be open to receiving what is yours, even if it is not packaged in the form you thought you wanted? Perhaps if you look deeper, you will see that you've received the perfect vibrational match to your most authentic wants and needs. You have put in the work, defined your desires, and felt them deeply, engaged your higher power. Now you must let go and see what transpires. This isn't always easy. Impatience erodes the foundations of your trust in the divine. Surrendering truly will serve your highest good. Knowing this truth is in your heart can be really difficult. But, that's basically kind of the message of the witness. It's like all the work is done internally, and it's like it's a big moment of truth, a big reckoning. So it's going to be interesting to see how the rest of this month evolves, because, you know, like I said, it's a big climax that's happening like every which way. But I will check in soon with some more messages.